Let's talk to Alexander Larman, author, historian, literary editor of The Spectator. Alexander, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How's it going?
Yeah, very well indeed. I mean, there will inevitably be those people who say, we're in this terrible period of austerity, we shouldn't be spending that kind of money on this kind of pomp and ceremony. I think, given that it's one of the few things we do rather well now, whatever money it costs is probably worth it, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, if you look at what happened yesterday, from every single aspect of it, from President Trump's appearance to speeches at the state banquet, it was all done exceptionally well. I mean, as I wrote in The Spectator today, it couldn't have gone better. First of all, from Donald Trump's perspective, I mean, he was clearly having a wonderful time. And in fact, what I was very interested in, when he made his speech, it had been briefed just before, it would have some remarks about free speech in it, which obviously would have been pointed and controversial and very Trump. But of course, in the end, he didn't say anything like that. I mean, there was a very pro-American remark about how he'd turned a very cold country into a very hot one. But apart from that, it was incredibly respectful. And it was, I mean, probably the most emollient I've ever heard him in a public sphere, because what we have with Donald Trump is somebody who in his own country is very quick to rail against his enemies and anyone who doesn't agree with him. But he is a properly paid up Anglophile, as James was saying a moment ago. There has not been a president who has had such a warm feeling towards Britain in living memory.
Yeah, and I think, as I say, you know, we're not at a particularly high ebb. We're rather low ebb at the moment with this government and with this kind of economy that we've got and the kind of, you know, falling apart of an awful lot of what used to be great in Britain. And I think we should celebrate whatever is great in Britain. And I think the monarchy and the pageantry that we saw yesterday, we do it really well.
Yes, I mean, certainly, I cannot say that the King was particularly looking forward to seeing Donald Trump, because the two men are very different.
Yeah.
And Charles might well see Trump as a vulgarian, but on the other hand, he also knows that his responsibility when it comes to state visits is not to let his personal feelings show, but to do a very good job. So that speech he gave last night I thought was similarly excellent. It was witty, it was well judged. I mean, one thing I'd like to say about the King is that he gets a bad press in some quarters for what are perceived as his liberal left views and tree hugging, and that may or may not be true. He's very good at speeches and public addresses and stuff like that, in a way that his mother just wasn't. And I think it's because when he was young, he had, you know, he was never going to be an actor, but he had ideas of being an actor. And so he really does pull off these set piece occasions well. And it's actually a pleasure to hear him speak rather than an ordeal.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, he's been doing it for a very long time. And as have we been doing all of that, you know, kind of slightly over the top banquet thing. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it on the front page of The Guardian this morning. There's a rather pathetic poem. Yeah, I mean, I know, I'm sorry to introduce it at this point in time, but I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's a poem by Carol Ann Duffy, the former poet laureate, which is so ridiculously bad. It's laughable. It's as if it's written by Dave Spart, you know, from the old days of Private Eye. But she talks about, you know, 6 crystal glasses per setting and all of that. You know, and for those of us who have occasionally been to one of those kind of fancy dinners where you get all sorts of cutlery, you're not quite sure what to do with it, and all sorts of glasses for different drinks, and you're not quite sure what to do with them, I think it's rather eccentrically brilliant that we do that sort of thing.
Yes, I mean, one thing that we are good at in Britain is that kind of very public tradition. And certainly, I mean, I don't know if Ms. Duffy is writing her, no doubt, brilliant poem in an attempt to poke fun at the whole thing. But you shouldn't poke fun at British traditions because, I mean, we got our £15 million worth last night, because what you hope is that Trump's presence here is not just for fun. There's a serious point behind it. There's a serious political and trade point. But the special relationship does matter. And of course, what Charles will have been hoping, I mean, those very pointed remarks about Zelensky and Ukraine did not come out of nowhere. And it's interesting because I think that he and the government both feel that if Trump and this administration can become more pro-Ukraine and more anti-Putin, there will be a real sense of the West being emboldened. And so the stakes are relatively high, and any way you can get through to Trump is going to be welcome. And so last night, obviously, yes, you have the glasses and the spoons and all the rest of it, but you also have a serious point behind it.
Yeah, and of course we've got the press conference coming up later on today. Let me just play you this little clip. This is from last night's Harry Cole show. Harry Cole Saves the West. He was interviewing Nigel Farage, who of course wasn't invited to the state banquet. Here's what he had to say.
You've seen the president recently. Does he consider you, have you spoken about the fact that, you know, if the general election was held in the UK tomorrow, you were going to be the Prime Minister? Does he know that?
He knows that. He knows that. In fact, all the American administration are acutely aware of it, and they think they see some similarities in what they've done and what we've done. And you know what? We speak the same language, we share a culture, but of course our politics is very, very different, other than one thing. One of the big reasons that Trump got elected is he said he would stop illegal migrants coming into America through the southern border. Looking at the numbers, they're down by over 90%. And I kind of think that dynamic in the American election will play out in the British general election whenever that happens too.
And there is definitely a large tranche of people in this country who are very much in admiration of what Donald Trump's done in the US and would rather like to see it here.
Yes, I mean, something that I would always be nervous about is saying that the only issue in Britain is migration, because obviously it is an issue, but I think there's so many more issues that reducing what's going to happen at the next election simply to a question of that is, I'd say, a bold step, because obviously you've got you've got the global situation, you've got, you know, the things that are going wrong at home at our very heart. And just seeing this as a problem is going to be solved by ending migration is, I think, rather simplistic. But on the other hand, what you can see at the moment in Britain is there is a sense that Nigel Farage, I think at this time, is almost certainly going to become Prime Minister, whether as the head of a reform government or as some part of Tory reform coalition. And so looking to Trump and what he's achieved in America is, I think, what every single politician should be doing, because whether you like Trump or not, you cannot deny that he has changed politics. He's altered the Overton window in America forever. And I can't see America going, I mean, because what's going to happen at the next election is going to be Gavin Newsom and or AOC running against, in all likelihood, J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
And if the government has done their job and what they were elected to do, they will be unassailable. And so you will see, I mean, I've just seen about Jimmy Kimmel being fired.
Yeah.
Now he's saying that it would just not have happened under a Biden
No.
administration. And because you see, in this country, nothing is happening. We are at absolute stasis. We have a rotten prime minister and a rotten government who are not getting anything done. And actually, that's one of the reasons why you look at the king as this ever-fixed mark of somebody who actually is standing for something greater. Because I mean, we now assume that Starmer's going to be gone in a matter of months. Do you think this is a man who came in last year with this staggering election victory, and what to show for it? Absolutely nothing.
Right. And he's completely squandered it. He's now, as I'm saying, I'm not sure they can go any lower than -50, but that's his approval rating at the moment. It's an all-time low. It's a record even for him. And you saw him yesterday standing there looking for all the world like he didn't even want to be there because he's so embarrassed about how badly it's going.
Of course he doesn't want to be there. I mean, this is the whole point, is that he doesn't look like a prime minister. He doesn't look like a statesman. I mean, in that picture, you're just showing. I mean, look at the body language, look at the face. He seems, I mean, his wife seems far more happy and far more suited to be there than he is. But I mean, Mike, you're right. Of a -50 approval rating, which is lower than Rishi Sunak. And actually, I must say, often I say, I wish we had Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister still, and I wish we had Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor. Because actually, looking back on it now, we can see that was a period of grown-up, sensible government compared to the absolute clown show we have now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes it look like a golden era, which is frightening, really, isn't it? But that's great to talk to you, Alexander Larman. Thank you very much indeed.